Fear isn't just a feeling, it's a decision maker. It decides what dreams you chase, which risks you avoid, and how your story unfolds. But here's the twist. Fear only has the power you give it. What if every fear you've ever felt wasn't a warning to stop, but an invitation to grow? In this video, we're unpacking 7 rules that will not only help you overcome fear, but teach you how to use it as fuel for transformation. These aren't fleeting tips. They're timeless principles that have stood the test of history. By the end, you'll see fear for what it truly is, a doorway, not a dead end. So, are you ready to walk through it? Let's begin. Rule 1, name the fear. Fear is like a shadow, looming large and shapeless when you avoid it. It feels endless, overwhelming, impossible to outrun. But the moment you name it, the shadow shrinks. It becomes something you can understand, and more importantly, something you can handle. Confucius, an ancient Chinese philosopher known for his teachings on ethics, said, "The beginning of wisdom is to call things by their proper name." That's where overcoming fear begins. Clarity. Naming your fear transforms it from something vague and paralyzing into something concrete, something solvable. Fear is slippery when left undefined. It tricks you into believing it's bigger than it really is. But when you say, "I'm scared of losing money," or "I'm afraid of being judged," you take away its mystery. It's no longer an unstoppable force. It's a thought, one you can tackle piece by piece. Imagine a young athlete about to compete in their first big match. They say they're terrified of losing. But when they stop and name their fear, they realize it's not just about losing. It's about feeling like they'll disappoint their team. Once they identify the true fear, they can focus on playing their best instead of letting the fear of failure take over. Naming your fear gives you clarity, but clarity alone isn't enough. The next step is to break it down piece by piece until it's no longer overwhelming. That's rule 2, and it's a game changer. Rule 2, break it down. Fear often feels massive, like a towering wall you can't scale. But no wall is insurmountable if you chip away at it piece by piece. When fear looms large, it's because we're trying to take it on all at once. Breaking fear down is like turning a daunting mountain into a series of small, walkable hills. Instead of worrying about everything at once, focus on what's directly in front of you. When you break fear into smaller parts, it becomes less intimidating. It's the difference between thinking, "I have to climb this entire mountain," and "all I need to do is take one step forward." Each small action builds momentum, and suddenly that insurmountable wall doesn't seem so high anymore. Imagine someone terrified of starting a new business. The fear feels overwhelming. What if it fails? But instead of tackling everything at once, they break it into smaller steps, brainstorming ideas, researching the market, drafting a plan. Each step shrinks the fear and builds confidence for the next. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher and founder of Taoism, believed in simplicity, balance, and harmony with nature. He once said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." This ancient wisdom reminds us that no fear, no goal is ever conquered all at once. By focusing on what's directly in front of you, you honor the process without being overwhelmed by the outcome. Breaking fear into smaller parts makes it less intimidating, but what if fear itself could be transformed into fuel? That's what the next rule is all about. Rule 3, reframe fear as growth. Fear often feels like a stop sign, blaring red, telling you to turn back. But what if fear wasn't a stop sign? What if it was a green light, signaling exactly where you need to go? Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th century German philosopher known for challenging traditional morality and exploring human potential, wrote, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." Fear is that chaos. It's a sign you're standing at the edge of your comfort zone, on the brink of transformation. Fear isn't there to paralyze you, it's there to push you. Think of it like resistance training for your soul. When you feel fear, it's because you're growing. Picture someone afraid of switching careers. They've spent years in a job that feels safe but unfulfilling. The thought of change terrifies them. But when they reframe that fear, They realize it's not fear of change, it's excitement about possibility. Fear and excitement often feel the same in your body. Your mind decides which one it becomes. The Japanese concept of kaizen, continuous improvement, teaches us that progress comes in small, uncomfortable steps. Fear accompanies those steps because they're unfamiliar, but that's where growth happens. Not in the comfortable, but in the stretch. Reframing fear as growth transforms your mindset, but how do you prepare yourself to face fear head on? Rule 4 will show you how. Rule 4, practice voluntary discomfort. Fear thrives in the unknown, but what if you could train your mind and body to become comfortable with discomfort? What if you could take control of fear before it even shows up? The ancient Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, the practice of imagining worst-case scenarios to prepare yourself for them. They believed that by voluntarily exposing yourself to small challenges, you could build the mental resilience to handle life's bigger ones. Think of it like building a callus. Each time you intentionally put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, you grow stronger. You teach your mind that discomfort isn't fatal. It's temporary, manageable, and often the gateway to growth. Fear loses its grip when you've already proven to yourself that you can endure hard things. Take cold showers as an example. The thought of stepping into icy water is unpleasant, but it's not dangerous. Each time you face the discomfort, you're training your mind to stop avoiding challenges. Over time, you build a mindset that says, I can handle this. Or consider someone who's afraid of rejection. Instead of avoiding situations where they might hear no, they challenge themselves to ask for something small every day. A discount at a store, a favor from a stranger. By facing small rejections, they become less afraid of the big ones. Training your mind to handle discomfort makes you fearless in small ways. But what about the big, sweeping fears of life? Rule 5 takes things to the next level. Rule 5, surround yourself with courageous people. Fear is contagious, but here's the good news. So is courage. The people you spend the most time with act like mirrors, reflecting their energy back onto you. Surround yourself with the timid, and your doubts will grow. Surround yourself with the brave, and you'll begin to see fear for what it truly is, a challenge worth facing. Aristotle called humans social animals, deeply influenced by the people around us. Courage doesn't grow in isolation. It's sparked by the examples of others, by seeing someone else take a leap and realizing you can too. When you see someone face a fear you also have, it rewires your brain. It tells you, if they can do it, so can I. Courage becomes normalized. You start to believe that fear isn't a reason to stop, but a sign you're on the right path. Imagine someone who's afraid of public speaking. They join a local club like Toastmasters, where they're surrounded by people who share the same fear but are actively working through it. Week after week, they watch others take the stage, stumble, and succeed. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes achievable because they've seen it done. Or think of a group of entrepreneurs. The risks they take seem less daunting when you're surrounded by others who embrace uncertainty and build something remarkable despite it. Seneca, a Roman Stoic philosopher, wrote, "Associate with those who make you better." Courage isn't just a personal trait, it's a collective one. By aligning yourself with people who embody boldness and resilience, you inherit a piece of their strength. Your environment shapes you, but courage isn't just about the people you surround yourself with. It's also about the mindset you cultivate. In Rule 6, we'll explore how to focus on what's in your control and let go of everything else. Rule 6, control what you can. Fear often feels overwhelming because it thrives on uncertainty, on everything you can't control. But here's the truth. Most of what we worry about is outside our hands. The trick isn't to conquer the uncontrollable, it's to focus on what is within your power. Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." Fear loses its grip when you stop fighting the tide and start steering your own boat. When you focus on what you can control, you shift your attention from anxiety to action. It's like standing in a storm and realizing you can't stop the rain, but you can open an umbrella. This mindset helps you conserve energy and build confidence because your effort is directed at something that truly matters. Consider someone worried about an upcoming job interview. They can't control whether the interviewer is in a bad mood or whether another candidate has better qualifications, but they can control how well they prepare, practicing answers, researching the company, and dressing to impress. By focusing on these actions, they reduce the weight of fear and feel ready, no matter the outcome. Or think of an athlete preparing for a big game. They can't control the weather, the referee's calls, or the opposing team's strategy, but they can control their training, mindset, and effort on the field. The Serenity Prayer captures this principle beautifully. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This timeless wisdom reminds us that true strength comes from knowing where to place your energy. Focusing on what you can control creates clarity, but what happens when fear still lingers? That's where Rule 7 comes in. It's about taking bold action even when fear remains. Rule 7. Act despite the fear. Fear doesn't disappear. It doesn't politely step aside when you're ready to move forward. The truth is, fear will always be there, standing at the edge of every meaningful decision you make. But here's the secret. You don't need to wait for it to leave. You just need to act anyway. Eleanor Roosevelt said it best. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in its presence. It's taking the leap, even when your legs are shaking. Fear shrinks in motion. The moment you take a step, any step, it loses some of its grip. Action rewires your brain, proving that the fear was worse than the reality. It's like jumping into cold water. The anticipation is far scarier than the plunge itself. Imagine someone who's terrified of starting a conversation with a stranger. They overthink every possible outcome: rejection, awkward silence, embarrassment. But when they finally muster the courage to say hi, they realize none of those fears come true. The stranger smiles and responds warmly. Or picture an artist afraid of sharing their work online. They hit post with a pounding heart, expecting criticism. Instead, they find encouragement, connection, and even admiration. The fear was loud, but their action drowned it out. Fear is not the enemy. It's a signal, a teacher, a doorway. And with these 7 rules, you now have the tools to name it, break it down, reframe it, and ultimately face it. Fear will always be part of life. It's not something you outgrow or eliminate. It's something you learn to navigate. And now you have 7 timeless rules to guide you. Name your fear, break it down, reframe it as growth, practice discomfort, surround yourself with courage, focus on what you can control, and act in spite of it. Think of these rules like tools in your toolbox. The next time fear shows up, and it will, you'll know exactly how to handle it. You won't just stand still, paralyzed by doubt. You'll step forward, even if it's just one small, shaky step. Remember this: the greatest stories in life are written by those who act, not in the absence of fear, but alongside it. Fear is the price of admission for the life you want. So, which rule resonated with you the most? Which one will you start practicing today? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this video sparked something in you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that fear doesn't have to win. Thank you for watching, and remember, fear doesn't define you. The way you face it does.